Kling 3.0 is 5 times cheaper per second than Veo 3.1 at 1080p. That's 0.14 versus 0.75, and if you're running volume work, that gap turns into real money pretty fast. Both models just dropped major updates in 2026, so I'm putting Kling 3.0 against Veo 3.1 across 5 tests to see who actually wins. The price gap alone doesn't settle this. The output limits test is going to decide whether that savings actually matters for your workflow. My name is Brian, and I'm in these tools 12 hours a day, so you don't have to be. Every number in this video is traced back to official pricing pages, model cards, and API docs that both companies publish. If you're generating dozens of clips a week, picking the wrong model could cost you hundreds of dollars a month before you even notice. Test 1. Cost per video generation. Say you decide to run 50 test clips for a client campaign, and your API bill comes back 3 times what you budgeted. That's when this dimension really bites. At scale, going from 0.14 a second to 0.75 a second is the kind of difference that turns a sustainable workflow into a very awkward invoice. I went through every published pricing tier for both models. Kling 3.0's consumer subscription starts at $6.99 a month. Veo 3.1 comes in at $19.99. On the API side, Kling Turbo runs 0.14 per second at 1080p, while Veo 3.1 on Vertex runs 0.75. An 8-second Kling clip costs you around $1.12 tops, and that same clip on Veo 3.1 runs up to $6. Kling 3.0 takes cost, and it's not close. I expected the gap to be meaningful, but 5 times cheaper per second at 1080p is pretty wild. For anyone doing volume work, that's a clear call. Kling 3.0 goes up 1-0 on the scoreboard, and that price advantage is going to echo through every other test we run today. Test 2. Coding benchmark performance. Now, some of you are probably thinking, why are we even looking at coding benchmarks for video generation tools? That's a fair objection, and the hard truth is this dimension just doesn't apply here. Neither Kling 3.0 nor Veo 3.1 is a coding model, so there's no published figure for either one, and I couldn't find a single comparable score anywhere. I went through every source I had, and both models are purpose-built for video generation. Text to video, image to video, that kind of thing. So coding tasks just aren't in scope. I couldn't find a benchmark score for Kling 3.0 or Veo 3.1 on any coding dimension, which means there's genuinely nothing to score here, and the on-screen cards show the same thing. No data on either side. This one's a wash. Neither model competes here because neither was designed for it, so no points move. Score stays Kling 3.01, Veo 3.10, with one test tied, and I'd rather tell you that plainly than pretend the data exists. Test 3. Generation speed. Say you're on a deadline and your video tool takes 4 minutes per clip, and you need 20 clips reviewed before a client call. At that rate, you're looking at over an hour of sitting there just waiting. So how fast do these two actually generate? Both models have a fast tier for rapid iteration. Veo 3.1 fast generates an 8-second clip in 90 to 120 seconds. That's a published figure. Kling 3.0 Turbo advertises rapid previews and 1:15 second outputs at 480p and 720p. But I couldn't find an exact generation time for a full clip, so a direct apples-to-apples comparison isn't really possible here. Both tools are pitching a fast tier, but they're measuring different things. Kling's Turbo is pushing low-res previews for quick iteration, while Veo 3.1 Fast is doing full 8-second clips in about 2 minutes, and those aren't the same workflow. Depending on what you actually need, a quick preview pass or a finished clip, one might suit you way better than the other. Speed is a tie. Without a published clip time for Kling to stack against Veo's 90 to 120 second figure, I can't call it either way, so the score stays Kling 3.01, Veo 3.10, with 2 tests now tied. Alright, so cost and speed are done, but the tests still ahead are the ones that could completely change your call. Context and output limits is coming up next, and that's where Kling 3.0's price advantage either holds up or falls apart for your specific project. Stick around because the deployment test after that could flip the whole thing. Test 4. Context and output limits. A solo creator trying to produce a 2-minute product story needs to know whether their tool can actually chain clips together into a coherent narrative, or whether they're going to hit a wall at 15 seconds and start stitching things together in post, and that manual work has a real cost in time and quality. What surprised me here is how different these two are on output structure. Kling 3.0 supports 15-second single clips at up to 60 FPS with multi-shot up to 6 clips, while Veo 3.1 caps individual clips at 8 seconds on the fast tier, but chains up to 20 clips for 140 plus seconds of total narrative, and Veo also goes up to 4K upscaling, which Kling doesn't do since it tops out at 1080p. The gap looks big, but it really depends on what you're making. If you're doing short social clips or product demos, Kling's 15-second clips with 60 FPS smoothness are actually pretty great, and that's something Veo 3.1 fast doesn't match since it runs at 24 FPS. So Kling wins on per clip quality and length, Veo wins on total story length, and neither one dominates across the board. Output limits is a tie. Veo 3.1's 140 plus second chaining is genuinely impressive, but Kling's 60 FPS clips and 15-second length make it competitive for shorter formats, so different strengths, different use cases. Score stays Kling 3.0 won, Veo 3.10, and we're now at 3 tests tied. Test 5, Deployment and Modality. The number that matters here is how many surfaces you can actually reach these models from, because if your stack already lives in Google Cloud and you pick the wrong tool, you're either paying for extra infrastructure or doing a full migration, and that's not a small cost. I looked at where each model actually deploys, and both support text to video, image to video, and native synchronized audio. That's parity. Kling 3.0 runs through its own open platform and Kai AI, while Veo 3.1 sits inside Google's full stack, Gemini API, Vertex AI, AI Studio, Google Flow, Replicate, OFAL.ai. Veo's ecosystem reach is wider, and Kling runs in 5 languages including Chinese, English, and Japanese, though I couldn't find a comparable language spec for Veo. The modality parity is real, both do the core stuff, but the difference is really about ecosystem fit. If you're already in Google Cloud, Veo 3.1 just slots in. If you're not, Kling's standalone platform is totally fine and cheaper to run. The advantage here is situational, not absolute, and it's kind of a use case call more than a clear technical win. Deployment is a tie. Veo 3.1's Google ecosystem depth is real, but the core modalities are matched and Kling's API is cheaper, so it balances out. Final score, Kling 3.0 won, Veo 3.10. 4 tests tied, that's the full picture before we call it. Okay, so where does Kling 3.0 clearly win? Price, first and foremost, at $6.99 a month on the consumer side and 0.114 per second on the API, it's 5 times cheaper than Veo 3.1 at 1080p. It also supports 15-second single clips at up to 60 FPS, which beats Veo's 8-second 24 FPS fast tier, and Kling's turbo mode is purpose-built for rapid preview iteration at scale. Now where does Veo 3.1 clearly win? Long-form narrative? No question. It chains up to 20 clips for 140 plus seconds of total video, while Kling caps at 6 shots. It goes up to 4K upscaling, which Kling doesn't do at all, and Veo 3.1 ranks a 1364 LO on LM Arena's blind crowd-voted leaderboard, which signals real quality and prompt fidelity that users actually notice. So here's the call. Going in, I thought the quality gap would make Veo 3.1 the obvious pick for most people, but that 5 times price difference at 1080p is just too big to ignore for anyone doing volume work. If you need fast iteration, budget control, or 60 FPS short clips, go Kling 3.0. If you need 4K, 140 plus second narratives, or the best audio fidelity, go Veo 3.1, 5 times cheaper. That's the number that decides it. And if you're curious how AI tools stack up when it comes to actually building things, I just put out a full breakdown on ChatGPT versus Lovable, which builds better websites, and the results are pretty interesting, so go check that one out next.